extremely cool. We have taken a boat ride over to Alcatraz Island, where we're gonna tour around the island and take a look at everything for ourselves. So as you can see behind me is where they all just would shower, and it's just rows of showers. We decided to do the free audio tour to learn more about the inmates and the day-to-day conditions of living in this remote prison. Entering the segregation cells, inmates were confined alone 24/7 with the exception of one outing a week to the recreation yard. These cells are the isolation cells where if you misbehaved, you would be sent in here. And yeah, definitely just from the feeling here, it is so dark and lonely. I can only imagine what it would really feel like to be trapped here. Rule number 5, privileges. You are entitled to food, clothing, shelter, and medical attention. Anything else that you get is a privilege. Visitations were allowed once a month with good conduct. We've all heard about this infamous prison escape from Alcatraz. In order to escape from the cell, the 3 men used stolen spoons from the mess hall, which they crafted into tools to dig a hole through the air vents in their cells. Once the holes were big enough to pass through, the men would meet in secret on top of the cell block, accessing it through the unguarded utility corridor directly behind their cells. They turned this into their workshop where they made a raft and life preservatives out of raincoats, rubber, and other materials to combat the ocean crossing. In order to fool the guards during the night counts, they made dummies out of a papier-mâché-like mixture. On June 12th of 1962, Frank Morris and brothers John and Clarence Anglin were found missing from their cells, successfully escaping from Alcatraz. We just did an audio tour of the cell house, and it was very informative and very interesting to go through all the different sections of the prison and learn about all the ways that the inmates lived. And yeah, it's just crazy to think that people actually lived here. After visiting Alcatraz, we headed to Pier 39. We are doing this mirror maze challenge where we're walking through this maze full of mirrors, and it's so hard to tell what's a mirror and what is airspace. We keep getting confused and running into the mirrors. Where am I?
I'm real.
Oh, that's not real? This is such a fun and trippy activity. I definitely recommend doing a mirror maze. Lucas and I played a game where we separated and had to find the other person, and we had so much fun just running around, trying to figure out what's a mirror and what's not. We did a self-driving audio tour in the Silicon Valley where we visited popular headquarters such as Google and Microsoft, along with some other destinations like the Computer History Museum. Oh my god, I just had a crazy night last night. It started at around 3 a.m. We were parked in a camping place we found on iOverlander just behind this fire station in the greater San Francisco area, and around 3 a.m. I hear honk, 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 and this guy in his car in front of us just shouting at this girl to get out of his car, get out. He went on, yelling at this girl named Rachel to leave the car, and then finally he got outside of his car and was still yelling at Rachel to get out of the car, which I thought was a little strange. And he proceeded to come closer to our car and shine a flashlight in our direction, and I was definitely feeling a little spooked at this point. And I never heard anything from Rachel. It was only this guy that was just shouting and yelling at this poor girl Rachel. Anyways, he then came pretty close to our car and circled around it and then started saying like, oh, British Columbia, like, oh, they're from Canada, and going on, and then he was really close to our window, and again, then yelling at Rachel. Then he says, I haven't seen Rachel in over a year. So I'm thinking, what the heck? Rachel isn't even here. He's just talking to himself this whole time. Obviously there's something mentally wrong with him, or he's on drugs or something. But yeah, still shouting at Rachel, who isn't even there, to get out. And then he mentions he's in front of our car and yelling out our license plate number and then telling us to get out of the car. So at this point, just before this, Lucas was still sleeping the whole time. So as soon as he mentioned about like British Columbia, our car, blah blah blah, then I wake up Lucas and I'm like, Lucas, we have to go. And Lucas is, just waking up and confused. He's wondering like, why do we have to go?
I didn't know what's going on.
Yeah. So he didn't think anything of it, but I mean, I've been listening to these things and hearing what's going on for the past good 45 minutes. So Lucas wanted to open the door and talk to this guy, and I was like, no, we have to go now. So we listen again. Lucas listens in for a bit, and yeah, the guy is just shining the light around our car and just, too close for comfort, peering into our car. And finally we decide, okay, let's go. So we drive away, we drive around for a little bit, and then I just look on Google Maps. I find a park that's 5 minutes away, so I'm like, perfect, let's go here. We pull in, nice neighborhood, a nice little parking spot that we can park on. Perfect. So we set our curtains up for bed, crawl into the back seat, and proceed to lie down. So I'm just getting relaxed now, and then a car pulls up right next to us at 4 a.m. I'm thinking, that's a little strange for a car to just pull up next to us this hour when there's other spots, and yeah, it's 4 a.m. What the heck is this car just pulling up for? So I look over, I'm a little bit unsettled, and I look over at this car and I see a guy, and it looks like his lips are moving, so he's talking. So I'm like, hey, maybe he's on the phone. Rachel. So it's the same guy. That's what I heard. Him going on again about Rachel. So he then gets out of his car, and at this point we call 911 because, he just kind of stalked us and showed up here, which is very creepy. And I'm on the phone with 911 explaining what's happening, and they say that the police is on the way. Meanwhile, this guy is around our car and right next to the window, and he's doing this with his hands, and he's about this far away from our window and is trying to peer in, and again yelling about Rachel in the window. Finally, after, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes, the police show up, and they happen to drive right past us, and then they turn around. At this point, the guy gets back in his car and starts it and just drives right past the police. I think they might have stopped for like 30 seconds, maybe their window was down or something like that, I'm not really sure, I couldn't hear anything. And the guy just drives off. The police, 2 officers, come over to us and we get out of the car. They asked, did you guys call 911? We said yes, that was us. And they asked, oh, why didn't you just drive away? So we explained we did already drive away once, and now the guy has followed us here, so we were feeling scared. And basically the police just said, oh, you shouldn't really park in a residential area. There's a lot of weirdos around this part of the city. Have a good night. Thanks, officers, for your help. But anyways, the guy left and we haven't seen him since. We then drove to a Taco Bell just to be somewhere more outside of the residential areas and somewhere more, I guess, public and open. And daylight then sprung upon us, so at least it's no longer dark. But yeah, I've been awake since 3 a.m. and that was horrifying.
I'm so tired.
I'm very tired too, but we're gonna get a coffee and sit somewhere inside and begin our day that way. Yeah.